So the next talk will be presented by Father Esko, and it's on the immortality of the soul. Please give him a round of applause. So, great to be here. Are you ready for the second conference? Are you still awake? No? Okay, you better be awake. Because there will be an exam before you leave this place. So, as you have heard, we're going to speak today about the soul. I've heard in the previous conference there was already a question about it. So let's see if you can give some more answers to it. I live in the Netherlands. I'm Dutch. And one of the things people rarely or never speak about is about the soul. We speak about our personality, we speak about ourselves, but the soul seems to be a forgotten reality. And a few centuries ago, this was unthinkable. Everybody would know that we have a soul and the consequences of having a soul. So today we'll try to speak about the human soul. What I would like especially is to invite you to be philosophers. So it is to reason with me, to follow the reasoning that why we have a soul, will be the first part, and then why it is immortal. Now get these two things, get the principles. So, because knowing that there is a soul is not a question of faith, of religion. I believe I have a soul. The fact that we have a soul is based on facts, actually on reality. So when you leave this place, actually that wall, I want you to think when you go there, I don't just believe I have a soul, I know that I have a soul. I'm convinced I have a soul. Okay, so this is a challenge for now. So I invite you to be philosophers. So how we will do this? We'll get 3 steps. 3 steps, 3 points, how we'll study this matter. First thing is the question, how can we even speak about the soul? Because it's not something we can see or touch. The second thing we'll speak about is about, okay, what is then the human soul? And lastly, some consequences. Okay? Are you with me? Okay, very good. First step, first point. How can we speak about the soul? Because the soul is not something we can see with our eyes or touch with our fingers. It is an invisible reality. But therefore, it doesn't mean it does not exist. We have things in the world which we cannot see, but really do exist. Let's give an example. Who of you has seen gravity? Have you seen gravity?
Yeah, I've seen it one time.
You've seen it once. You know what we see? No. We see the effects of gravity. Every time I drop this bottle, it will fall on the floor. And if we do this 20 times, it will fall 20 times. We don't see gravity. We see the effects of gravity. Same thing about light. Who of you has seen light? We see things which are illuminated. Who of you has seen life? We don't see life. We see things or people who are alive. You see the difference?
Yeah.
So there are things which really do exist, but we cannot see with our eyes or actually touch. And these are many more realities which have the same thing, and think as well about the existence of God. It's not that we can see him, but because of his actions and effects, we can deduce that God really exists. So, how do we know then that these things exist? It's effects and actions. These two things we have to keep them in mind. No? So they exist, we cannot see them, but because of its actions and effects, we know it exists. Back to the gravity. I can't see it, but I can see the effect of gravity. And therefore we have the famous formula for gravity. Good. You know maybe the famous quotes of Antoine d'Exupéry in his famous book The Little Prince. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And the same thing we can actually say about the soul. It's essential, but it's invisible. It's invisible, but it is very essential and real. And let's try to go deeper in this word real. Real and reality. Because we are surrounded by many visible things and invisible things. And as long man has lived, humans have lived, they've tried to study reality. How can we make food? We need to survive. People go and study. We are sick, we're ill, we need to get medicine. Study reality. How can we get better? How can we build things? Why not stop living in tents, making some houses? People start to think and understand reality. But there are also people during the history who have tried to study reality in itself. So not reality, medicine, food, but trying to understand nature, trying to understand reality. And those people are called philosophers. That's why I invite you to be philosophers, to understand how things are working. Maybe you know philosophy started in the ancient Greece. And philosophy as a word, it means love of wisdom. And what these philosophers did was actually just looking, contemplating nature and think, why is this? What is the reason for that? Trying to study reality, to contemplate it and to discover it. And it were exactly those Greek philosophers who have also started to study and think about the soul. That was the first part. Let's go to the second point. What is a soul? And we're going to divide it in 4 steps, 4 baby steps. 4 baby steps to go forward to understand a bit more about the soul. And the first thing is to explain what does it actually mean, the word soul. Where does it come from? The word soul in Latin is anima. And in Greek it is psyche. And they both mean the same etymologically. It means to blow or breath. That's the word. Anima means to blow or breath. And the Greek philosophers tried to use this word for things that are alive. Because looking to reality, we see things that are alive and things that are not alive. We see things which move and things which don't move. It's something obvious. But the question is, why does that thing move and other things stop moving? Maybe you remember the first time you see the dead person. I remember it very, very well. I was a seminarian. We went with a priest to a parish, the man just passed. Everything seemed the same. The body, everything was there. But he stopped moving. He lost the breath of life. So there's obviously a difference. So these philosophers contemplating reality and nature were saying, okay, but why is that difference? What is the difference? And therefore, let us give a first example. You philosophers, what's the difference between a stone and an animal? There are many differences. But the main one is that an animal is alive and a stone is not. A stone, just like this cup will never move until I move it. It will not move by itself. Just the same for the stone. It will be always there for centuries if nobody moves it. And it will not even turn into a statue by itself unless somebody comes and makes it a statue. An animal can move, and it does move. And it doesn't just move around, it also grows. This is spontaneously, it's by its own nature. And that is the difference, but the thing is that the philosophers were thinking, but why is it that this stone or that animal is moving and the other is not? What is the difference which makes this thing alive and the other thing is not alive? What is that principle? What is that thing? What changes? What is it? It is the soul. The soul who gives life to something, which makes it animated. Think about the word animated or animation. What does it mean? It looks alive. That's why we thought Mickey Mouse was alive. Seeing the movies, all these drawing one after another, animated, he seemed alive. Where does it come from? Anima, soul. So the soul is the life giver. We cannot see it, we cannot touch it, but we can see the effects of it. With the soul, the things are alive. Without the soul, things are dead. Just the same as we said, a dead person. No? A few hours before, that man maybe was walking, was singing. But there at that moment, he was just cold. Or maybe you've done, maybe a beloved one you have lost, you touch it, and you just feel that the body is cold. It is lifeless. It has no soul within it. So the soul is the life-giving principle. But why is this so important? You say, okay, it's obvious. It's obvious that we are alive. But the important fact is here that we are not just some matter or atoms put together. Well, scientists can explain what life is. It's a mystery. But sometimes men or humans are reduced, yeah, but just some atoms together, it's all perchance. But it's not. There's a reason behind all this. And that's what we try to find out by studying the soul. So, we go ahead in our adventure about the soul. We've just done the basic meaning. Soul, anima, psyche is a life giver. The life-giving principle in creatures. So, let's go to the second step. The different types of soul. Same question for you guys. In all the living things we see, are we all the same?
No.
Obviously we are not the same. There's a difference. There's a difference between a plant and an animal. A plant grows, it drinks water, it eats from minerals. An animal as well, it grows, it eats, it drinks. But there's something an animal does which a plant can do. See, hear, touch, taste. So there's obviously a scale, a difference. They are different and they have different actions. And the same we can say with us humans. We are not the same as plants. We have similar things. We grow, we eat, we drink. We have similar things to animals. We see, we hear, we touch, we taste, and we touch. But we also reason. We have an intelligence. And sometimes we say, oh, this dog is so intelligent. I mean, dogs are not intelligent. And all animals are not intelligent. It's a way of saying things. But how do we know they have no intelligence? Very simple. Because they have been doing the same thing for the last centuries. This most spider would say, okay, you know what? My spider web, if I change it in form, maybe I catch more flies. No. I play the food in front of it and say, okay, you know what, doggy? Today we're going to fast. It will just eat it quickly before you even can see. It cannot, because it has no intellect and it has no will. There's obviously a difference. And the philosophers, they will say, okay, but if we are different, there must be some principle, a thing, which means that we are different. Now, a principle in philosophy is that thing which makes us in a certain way. Well, the soul is a life-giving principle, so it makes us alive. The human soul makes us humans with our body. It's the principle. But if we are different and our actions are different, it's because of this formula what St. Thomas Aquinas said, action follows being. Latin agere sequitur esse. In simple words, the way you act depends on the way you are. If we go into a dark room and we hear woof woof, obviously it's the dog. Because his actions, barking in this case, is typically to a dog and not meowing. And if we apply this principle agere sequitur esse, action follows being, If you apply this to the living beings, we can say there's like 3 scales. First scale, the plants. Second, the animals. And the third, the humans. We're all living beings, but obviously we're different. And Aristotle said, because of course we have 3 types different souls. The plants have just a vegetative soul, animals a sensitive soul, and humans a rational soul. So with this rational soul we can go to the third step. What is then a rational soul? Because Aristotle used this definition, rational animal, for humans after studying a lot about humans. What are we? What makes us different? And one of the famous Greek philosophers, you probably know him, Socrates, ever heard of him? He, when he was speaking about the soul, he said this: the soul is the seat of reason, research and truth, awareness of being, virtue, dialogue with the divine. It is the true primary cause of all human action, while the other bodily causes are secondary causes. He said, of course, everybody needs 2 legs. We need muscles in order to walk. But the legs, they do not decide when, where, and if to go. So the soul, the principal cause, and the body, the secondary cause. He calls the soul the primary cause of all human actions. So we can say everything I am, everything I do, comes in a certain way from my soul. Just like my hand. It doesn't move by itself. We went a bit nervous, then my nerves in my fingers, I feel them. But the decision to lift my hand to do something, it's my decision. It comes from my soul. The thing is, it goes so automatically and quick that we love that we don't even think about it. No? But because it's a great unity between my body and soul. There are 2 so united that they work normally perfectly together. So the guy who is a bit shouting there, Francesco Agnoli, is a great scientist, a great man. He wrote a book about the soul, and he gave the 18 proofs of the existence of the human soul. And especially pointing out that us being humans, we're not just pure matter, we're not just some atoms put together, we have really something spiritual within us, and that is our soul. And I will just look at some. If you want to know all, study Italian and get his book, or ask the priest and the sisters to translate it, or help yourself. Get the book translated and get it on the market so more people can know about the soul. So the first thing is, of course, the most obvious one and known, that the fact that we have a soul, is that we have an intellect. We have reason. We can think. And the fact that we can think, it cannot be touched, it cannot be seen, but we have it. Even if we not always use it, but we have an intellect, and we should use it. But if we have a reason, that's a gift, as a faculty of the soul, it's something spiritual. It's not all in the brains. Now nowadays everything is about the brain. But the brain is just matter. It's just material. But if we look to what we can do as humans, it goes beyond matter. Think about an idea. An idea is immaterial. An idea is immaterial. I see you, I see the chairs you're sitting on, I can think about you, I can think about the chairs, but you and the chairs are not physically in my mind. It's an idea, something immaterial. And this is with our reason. And we can do a lot of things. We can judge, we can think, we can reason, we can feel, we can reflect, we can think about what we want. All these things are immaterial realities, and it would be just absurd to say that it's just all matter. It's all in the brains. Because all these actions, judging, thinking, reasoning, reflecting, willing, are immaterial realities. With our minds, we can travel in space and time. With our minds, we can find out and see how we can regulate nature. We have started to think, okay, now we're living in the tent. Why do we make something of wood? We start building houses of wood. But yeah, we can also make bricks. We can make stone. All these things show that something, our reason, is immaterial. It's just not limited in the matter. Otherwise, our minds will be very, very small. Not even be able to think. Because an idea is immaterial. That's the first proof, the reasoning. Second thing is knowledge. How do we know things? Now, we know things by perceiving them. Now, we see them, we hear them, we touch them. But all these things are particular IDs. Let's get back to our dogs. Dogs are easy examples. I see a dog, I see another dog, I see another dog. They were all three different dogs. But I have a mind, I have the idea of dog. Normally we think about a particular one. Something automatically. But we have the idea of dog. So simple, even if we go to Japan and I've seen a dog I've never seen, I can say that's a dog. Because I have the abstract idea, the universal of dogs. We can have these things in our mind. It's immaterial. And even more, with our soul, our intellect, we can know ourselves. We can know the deeps, what is going in us, what is going through us, what the things I think about, my ideas, my desires, my prayers. All these things are spiritual actions, something which goes beyond matter. Another thing, singularity. He says it's more from the Christian philosophers, because he said, okay, God created each one of us, his soul at the moment of conception. We got a soul that God created out of nothing, just to say, this is you, this is you. And nobody in history, nobody ever will be you. We are unique. And if you think materially wise, of course our bodies are similar, we all have the same elements. We're a tiny bit different. I have a different color skin as you do. We have some things, secondary things, which are different. But substantially we are the same. But we're not the same. Why are we not the same? Because we're unique. Everybody has a unique soul given by God. You have your own personality, your story, your relation with others, and with God. That makes you unique. That is something which cannot be in matter. It's something spiritually. Soul in the soul. Another very important one, how we can say that we have a spiritual soul, is that we have a moral consciousness. We can make our own decisions. We can choose to choose or not to choose. We can choose what to do, this or the other thing. All this goes within our freedom. But of course, that freedom has laws, moral laws, even within us, and a responsibility. Because if I choose, I'm responsible of my actions. That's why if I do something wrong, I can be fined. Yeah, you were driving too fast. Yeah, the car. No, it was you driving fast. Maybe you had a nice car who helped you a bit going faster. But it was your decision. That's why you're responsible for that. Even our conscience. It reminds us to do good and to avoid evil. And the times we do evil, we know that. And sometimes even remember that was wrong. It's our conscience. God speaking within us. This was good or this was evil. Language. Language is an expression of our ideas and thoughts. I'm trying to explain now here to you about the reality I've studied about the soul. It's something spiritual in a certain sense. And the last one, which is interesting, which also shows more and more that we have spiritual souls, is happiness. And especially desire for happiness. Because we all know, sometimes we fail about it, but we cannot find happiness in material things. We try to, but in the end we know, okay, now, on the end it's not. This phone, the newest iPhone will make me happy. And after half a year, you know that the new iPhone is coming out. This one is already useless. material things cannot make us happy. Because in our souls, since it's infinite, we are always looking for infinite happiness, which cannot be found in this limited world. Okay, these are just some proofs he puts in his book about how we can prove that we have a spiritual soul. These things are helping us to know that we are not just matter, but not just some atoms put together, some matter put together, but we have really a spiritual principle within us, and that is our soul. So, St. Thomas Aquinas, he gives us some more lessons about the soul, and especially about the qualities of the soul. So how is the soul? And the three things he says, first of course is immaterial, we know that, but we're going to go deeper a bit. It's subsistent and immortal. These are three things we try to explain. We'll try to explain. But they are all important in the knowledge that we can know by reason and not just believe that our soul is truly immortal. So the first thing he said, okay, the soul is not a body, it's not something material. We already said that a bit, no? But he says, why? Because the soul is not just a principle of life. He said it's the first principle of life. Think, in our bodies we have a lot of principles of life. Our heart, our brains, and a lot of organs we need in order to live. If you shoot in my heart, I'm dead. It's a principle of life. But St. Thomas states it's not the first principle of life. It's there, yes, but it's not the first one. The first one, who makes actually in a certain way, is the soul. And think about it just biologically. At the moment of the zygote, sexual intercourse, husband and wife, new life is born. The sperm cell goes into the egg and a new reality comes on. Everything is organized. Everything grows. It's not the heart. It's not there yet. It's not the brain. It's not there yet. It's made. All consequences of the spiritual soul who give life to the new being and makes everything in the way they are. So this is just to show that the soul is not something material. It's something immaterial, we say spiritual. The second element, a bit more difficult, but I know you're willing to learn, you're willing to be philosophers, so we're going for it. It says the soul is subsistent. And what does that mean? It means that it doesn't need the body in order to be. It's a bit of a difficult one. Why? Because at the moment of conception, the two realities go together. Soul and body, they always come together. It's not that there are some souls there, and then God, oh yeah, you go here. And then, oh yeah, now you go here. The two realities, they always come together in our world. But the fact is that the soul is independent to exist. How? Because of what the soul can do. Remember this principle we have spoke about, operari seguitur esse. So actions follows being. If you act in a certain way, it's because you are in a certain way. Okay? If you act in a certain way, because you are in a certain way. And the reason our soul can reason a thing we can do without our body. Concretely, when we think about things, we normally think about the things we have seen, right? The things we have experienced. But the fact still is that our soul has the capability to reason without having this information. Is that a bit understandable? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, happy to see that. I'm trying to find an analogy. It's a bit difficult. I don't even know if it really fits. Well, I'll try. Messi. He's a great player, right? Oh, there's a lot of fans here. Good. But he is a great player even if he has not a ball there right at his foot. He has the capability because he is a good player. Yes, when he has the ball, he shows what he is. Okay? It's an analogy. It's not a perfect example. Because Messi is just material and the soul is not. I will try to give another example. Maybe they can help. When a person is kept a slave, your freedom is taken away, right? You have to do this, you have to do that. But your interior freedom is never taken unless you give it. I have to do this, you have to do that. But my ideas, my intelligence, and my will, I don't give unless I give it. They cannot take it away. The professor said, man is not what he's surrounded with, but his own choices. So even if it's so difficult from the outside, it's your own. And this is just to show a bit, two examples I hope they help, to show how our soul is independent, and that's why you say, St. Thomas said, subsistent. It can be without the body. Animals, is their soul in the same way? Why not? Because everything they do is connected with their body. Everything is in their instinct. When they're hungry, they eat. When they're thirsty, they drink. They run when they need to run. Everything what they do is connected and related with their body. They have no spiritual actions. They don't reason. They do it always the same way. And that shows there's a big difference. So if you go back to the same principle, agere seguitur esse, actions follows being. They always do material things, bodily things. And even the soul, therefore, is not subsistent. When the body dies of an animal, the soul dies. So unfortunately, there's no heaven for dogs. But we don't know what God will do in the new world. We don't know. He has not revealed that. Okay. But the third and last one. Immortality of the soul. Are you ready? Good. How can we kill something that is material? By destroying it, right? If I give you a gun and you shoot me, I'm dead. My heart starts working and my body is not there anymore. But how can we kill something that is spiritual? How can we kill something that is immaterial? We cannot. We cannot. And neither can it destroy itself. And neither can it be killed by something that is material. That applies to the soul. So when the body is spiritual, is in a certain sense independent from my body. So when my body dies, my soul cannot die with it, because it is of a higher order. My question is, what I thought for a long time, could God destroy our soul? A bit more theology, maybe philosophy, but could he destroy it? In his almightiness, he could. But God, he does never something against what he thought to be. If God chose us to be, we are there to be eternally, for always. So could he? Yes or no? In his almightiness, of course. But actually, de facto, practically no. Because he chose us to be forever. So, let's go to our third point. Some logical consequences. Because what happens if we forget the reality of the soul? And I think that is one of the problems of nowadays. Now, in the times of the Greek philosophers, especially Plato, it was a bit the other extreme. They said the soul is everything, the body is just a cage. It imprisons your soul. And that's why they do not have a right view of the body. Maybe just an anecdote. You remember St. Paul when he went to Athens, he went to preach. I'm coming to make you know the unknown God, right? And in the end, he speaks about the resurrection of the body. And the people in Athens say, oh yes, we'll come later. Because for them, the body was something limiting on your soul. It was something negative. It was a prison for your soul. The one extreme. Nowadays, we are on the other extreme. That we are just reduced to matter, purely material. And when that happens, everything becomes horizontal. And even worse, our animal part, our passions, our way of being, will be exalted. A bit we heard yesterday in Father Fuentes' second conference, the 60s. All your instincts, just let them go. Just let them go. And therefore, higher values, like virtue, will be forgotten. Maybe just an example. In Dutch, the word virtue, deugd, is rarely even known by people. The word virtue. Deugd. This just to show how bad we are if we forget the reality of the soul. Because when we forget the reality of the soul, we also forget all the other things which come with it, like virtue. Another thing, if we are purely matter, what about the sense of our lives? Are we just to live here for a certain time and then to die? What do we live for? There are no higher values. Why should we live for virtue? We just work for pleasure. We live for pleasure. Live for money. Live to work. That will be a sense of life. Horizontal. Another thing, if we have no right view about our souls, we'll not also be capable to have the right idea about our bodies. Something we see again nowadays. Now our body just seen as a machine or an instrument. Do whatever you want. You want to be something different? Just go for it. Who can stop you? You choose. Your body, just do whatever you want. Well, this is a problem of not understanding the reality of unity of soul and body, making you truly one. You are not just your body, you are not just your soul, you are your body and soul. And lastly, if we forget the reality of our soul, of our souls, it's like a spiritual suicide. Because since we are spiritual beings, we also need spiritual care. And if we neglect that spiritual needs, it will produce negative consequences in our lives. Not having a sense of life, living in addictions, living in depression. If you have a spiritual soul, it needs spiritual care. So this was just the philosophy part. Reasoning, understanding, contemplating nature, reality, in order to understand what it is. But I've added another point. I want to see what can we know about our souls out of revelation. What has God revealed us about our soul? Just something extra. Because luckily we know God exists and that He loves us. Now God, in the Bible and especially in Christ, He revealed us who we truly are. Now in Genesis, one of the first things we say about humans, God created them in His own image and likeness. And St. Catherine of Siena said this: what made you, God, establish man in so great a dignity? Certainly the incalculable love by which you have looked on your creature in yourself. You are taken with love for her, for your creatures. For by love indeed you created her. By love you have given her a being capable of tasting your eternal good. This is what God reveals us in Christ in the Bible. This knowledge about that we are loved by Him. And in Christ, in His incarnation, He gave us also the spiritual food, which is the redemption, grace, and especially the sacraments. And we know, thanks to Christ, that we'll be judged one day. Our souls will be judged based on the actions. And there are only two options. It's either one way or the other way. Okay, conclusion. by looking to reality, we have seen a big difference between beings. Some are alive, others are not. And even in the things which are alive, there are differences. There's a scale. And on top of this scale is man, all human beings. We have a soul, a rational soul, which we have tried to prove by looking into the different actions we do, which don't come from our matter. Seeing our spiritual actions, that knows we have a spiritual soul, an immortal soul. And that immortal soul is a unique gift from God to each of you. And that soul which God has given to us, we are there to take care of it. Because one day He will ask, how do you use the gift I've given you? And depending now on our lives, how we take care of our soul, we will decide our destiny. Okay, thank you.